Welcome in, everyone. I hope everyone is having a great day. Make sure you hit that thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video. It's a very cold day here in Henryville. It's about 22 degrees out there, but after all, it is winter time, so we'll give it just a few minutes for some people to come in, and we will continue with Deuteronomy, the very last pages. So I've got the heater on in here blaring because it's cold. So hopefully it'll warm up in just a little bit in here. So I guess that's the pitfall of having an older home. It takes longer for things to heat up. But anyway, and as you know, we're getting close to that Christmas season. And during this month, we will have the story of Jesus and his birth and his walk on the earth and his crucifixion. And beyond that, I think it was very appropriate for this time of year to have that. So that's what we're going to do next. And, we always got to remember the reason for the season. It's absolutely Jesus Christ and his immaculate birth and his walk on this earth and the miracles that he performed, the love that he showed to his fellow man, and how he still reigns on this earth to this very day. So we'll give it just a few more minutes and then we will get started on this very last few pages of Deuteronomy. I always believe it's a good idea. Once you start something, you should absolutely finish it. And I think we're just 3 pages away or 4 from having that done. So we're going to do, well, maybe 5. But we're going to try to finish this up because I think there's a very important message in every page of the Bible, and everything should be acknowledged as read. So that's why we are continuing on with this final pages in Deuteronomy. So I do welcome you, if you have your Bible available, to open it up and read along as we go. I think sometimes when people actually see the words, there's a stronger understanding of what is being read. Of course, you can read the Bible many times over and get something out of it every time. I believe that's how it was intended to be, and that's why this book was written, as a guide to life and everything that we hold dear, and the promises that Christ made on the cross during his life. He walked on the earth, and he defeated death, and he gained us a victory because we have everlasting life because of that. So I may just go ahead and get started on this. I'm sure people will come in as we go. We want to get this finished so we can go on to, of course, we're already in the month of December, but I felt like, Christ's birth and everything that transcended beyond that is very important. So we're going to begin in Deuteronomy chapter 30. Now it came to pass, when all these things came upon you, the blessing and the curse which I have set before you, and you can call them. And hello, Joanne. Welcome in. Good to see you, sweetie. Set to them mind along the nations where the Lord your God drives you, and you return to the Lord your God and obey his voice accordingly to all that I command you today, you and your children, with all your heart and with all your soul. that the Lord your God will bring you back from captivity and have compassion on you and gather you again from all the nations where the Lord your God has scattered you. That's one thing about God. He does offer forgiveness of sins. You come to Him earnestly and confess those, and you are forgiven. But you have to be sincere about it, and you can't have any underlying motive. Even if you're going through something because of that sin. Sometimes we do go through things because of sin, whether it be our own fault or maybe the fault of someone else. We still go through those things, and sometimes there is a lesson to be learned. And, I think once we have gone through those tough times and our prayers are answered, then we realize where we fell short and how not to do that again. If any of you are driven out to the farthest parts under heaven from where the Lord your God will gather you, and from there he will bring you, then the Lord your God will bring you to the land which your fathers possessed, and you shall possess it. He will prosper you and multiply you more than your fathers. And the Lord your God will circumcise your heart and the heart of your descendants to love the Lord your God with all of your heart and with all of your soul, that you may live. Also, the Lord your God will put all these curses on your enemies and on those who hate you, who persecute you. And we all know that whenever you believe in God, that you will be attacked, be it by the devil or other people. And that's when our faith comes in, that we can be able to overcome that, because sometimes out there it's not an easy world, and we have to remain steadfast in our faith to know that this too shall pass. We all go through things in life, and God's always with us. There may be times when the going gets tough and we wonder, where's God? He is right there with us no matter what we go through. And He promises never to leave us, and His promises are true and they are just. And you will again obey the voice of the Lord and do all His commandments, which I command you today. The Lord your God will make you abound in all the work of your hand, in the fruit of your body, in the cease of your livestock, and in the produce of your land for good. For the Lord will again rejoice over you for good, as He has rejoiced over your fathers. If you obey the voice of the Lord your God to keep His commandments and His statutes, which are written in this book of the law, and if you turn to the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, for His commandment, which I command you today, is not too mysterious for you, nor it is far off. It is not in heaven that you should say, who will ascend into heaven for us, bring it to us that we may hear and do it. Nor is it beyond the sea that you should say, who will go over the sea for us and bring it to us, that we may hear it and do it. But the word is very near you, in your mouth and in your heart, that you may do it. See, I have set before you today and good life and good, death and evil. In that I command you today to love the Lord your God, to walk in His ways, and to keep His commandments, His statute, and His judgments, that you may live and multiply, and the Lord your God will bless you in the land which you go to possess. But if your heart turns away so that you do not hear, and are so drawn away and worship other gods and serve them, I announce to you today that you shall surely perish. You shall not prolong your days in the land which you cross over the Jordan to go in and possess. I can call heaven and earth as witness today against you that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore, choose the life that both you and your descendants may live, that you may love the Lord your God, that you may obey his voice, and that you may cling to him. For he is your life and the length of your days, that you may dwell in the land which the Lord swore to your fathers, to Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, to give them. Then Moses went and spoke these words to all Israel, and he said to them, I am 120 years old today. I can no longer go out and come in. Also the Lord has said to me, you shall not cross over this Jordan. Now people back in biblical days, they lived to be 100 years and older. That was the way it was. And there were also people that were very tall back then as well. The Lord your God himself crosses over before you. He will destroy these nations from before you, and you shall dispossess them. Joshua himself crosses over before you, just as the Lord has said. And the Lord will do to them as he did to Sihon and Og, the kings of the Amorites, and their land when he destroyed them. The Lord will give them over to you, that you may do them accordingly to every commandment which I have commanded you. Be strong and of good courage. Do not fear nor be afraid of them, for the Lord your God, he is the one who goes with you, and he will not leave you or forsake you. So, how many times have we been afraid and not trusted that God was with us? And he really was. And he stands beside us always, as was demonstrated in this above paragraph. His promises are real. And even though, we walk through a lot of hills and valleys, he is always with us. And we have to keep those commandments, because that is what that he proclaimed, and that's what he expects. Then Moses called Joshua and said to him in the sight of Israel, be strong and of good courage. You must go with his people to the land which the Lord has sworn their fathers to give them, and you shall cause them to inherit it. And the Lord, he is the one who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not leave you nor forsake you. Do not fear nor be dismayed. So Moses wrote this law and delivered it to the priests, the sons of Levi, who bore the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and to all the elders of Israel. And Moses commanded them, saying, at the end of every 7 years, at the appointed time in the year of release, at the feast of the tabernacles, when all Israel comes to you, appear before the Lord your God in the place where he chooses. You shall read his law before all Israel in their gathering. Gather the people together, men and women and little ones, and the stranger who is within your gates, that they may hear and that they may learn to fear the Lord your God carefully, observe all the words of this law, and that their children who have not known it may hear and learn to fear the Lord your God as long as you live in the land which you cross the Jordan to possess. When the Lord said to Moses, behold, the days approach when you must die, call Joshua and present yourselves in the tabernacle of the meeting, that I may inaugurate him. So Moses and Joshua went and presented themselves in the tabernacle of the meeting. Now the Lord appeared at the tabernacle in a pillar of cloud, and the pillar of cloud stood above the door of the tabernacle. And the Lord said to Moses, behold, you will not rest with your fathers, and his people will rise and play the harlot with the gods of the foreigners of the land where they go to be among them, and they will forsake me and break my covenant which I have made with them. When the anger shall be aroused against them in that day, and I will forsake them, and I will hide my face from them, and they shall be devoured, and many evils and troubles shall befall them, so that they will say in that day, have not these evils come upon us, because our God is not among us? And I will surely hide my face in the day because of the evil which they have done, and that they have turned to other gods. Nor therefore write down this song for yourselves, and teach it to the children of Israel. Put it in their mouths, and this song may be a witness for me against the children of Israel. Now, as far as children go, you have to teach them what is right and what is the truth. And it does start with the parent. You have to not only tell them, you have to live that so that they will see it and take that example. We are the first teacher of our children, and we need to do it in a way that is pleasing to God and the commandments which He has set forth that we should all obey. When I have brought them to the land flowing with milk and honey, of which I swore to their fathers, and they have eaten and filled themselves and grown fat, then they turn to other gods, serve them, and they will provoke me and break my covenant. Then it shall be, when many evils and troubles may come upon them, that the song will testify against them as a witness, for it will not be forgotten in the mouths of their descendants. I know the inclination of their behavior today, even before I have brought them to the land of which I swore to give them. Therefore Moses wrote the song the same day and taught it to the children of Israel. Then he inaugurated Joshua the son of Nun and said, be strong and of good courage, for you shall bring the children of Israel to the land of which I swore to them, and I will be with you. So it was, when Moses had completed writing the words of his law in a book, then they were finished, that Moses commanded the Levites who bore the ark of the covenant of the Lord, saying, take this book of the law and put it beside the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God, that it may be there as a witness against you. For I know your rebellion and your stiff neck. If today, while I'm yet alive with you, you have been rebellious against the Lord, then how much more after my death? So, this kind of opens the door that, of Christ. Hey, Angie, welcome in, sweetie. That, we know this kind of leads on to like the crucifixion of Christ. And, that's why this whole month, of course, we're into the month more, is going to be totally about Christ's birth, his ministry on earth, his betrayal, and finally his resurrection from the grave. That gives us hope to this day that, we have hope, not, that upon our life on this earth, however we go through many things, be it with our health or different things, we know that God promises that as long as we remain faithful to Him and His commandments and love Him with all our heart and soul, that our reservation has already been made, so to speak. Gather to me all the elders of your tribes and your officers, that I may speak these words in their hearing and call heaven and earth to witness against them. For I know that after my death you will become utterly corrupt and turn aside from the way which I have commanded you, and evil will befall you in the latter days because you do evil in the sight of the Lord. You provoke him to anger him, the work of your hands. Then Moses spoke to the hearing of all the assembly of Israel the words of this song until they were ended. Give ear, O heavens, and I will speak, and hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. Let my teaching drop as the rain, my speech distill as dew, as raindrops on the tender herb, and as showers on the grasses, for I proclaim the name of the Lord. Ascribe greatness to our God. He is the rock. His work is perfect. For all his ways are justice and a God of truth and without injustice. Righteous and upright is he. They have corrupted themselves. They are not his children because of their blemish, a perverse and crooked generation. Do you thus deal with the Lord, O foolish and unwise people? Is he not your father who brought you? Has he not made you and established you? I think that's how people are in general. They get their blessing and then they quickly forget who that came from. And that's where the 10 commandments come into play. If you're not observing those, even after he brought the Israelites out of Egypt from Pharaoh, how soon us as people forget the many blessings that God has given us. And when trouble comes, we spend our time worrying, which is a waste of time because we are questioning God's will. And we are questioning whether or not that he is with us, and he is always there, and he promises never to leave us. So we have to remain steadfast in our faith. We can't, if we question the bad things that happen in our life, wouldn't we have to question the good as well? And, he said we were going to go through these things. He did not say that life was going to be perfect, that you would not stumble and you would not fall, but yet he offers forgiveness. We are all predestined to sin, each and every one of us. And, he knew that. That is why he died on that cross, to give us a chance at eternity so that we may not suffer the indignation of this world as we know it, So remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. Ask your father, and he will show you, your elders, and they will tell you, when the Most High divided your inheritance to the nation. When he separated the sons of Adam, he set the boundaries of the peoples according to the number of the children of Israel, for the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is the place of his inheritance. He found them in a desert land, and in the wasteland, a howling wilderness. He encircled them. He instructed them. He kept him as the apple of his eye. As all eagle stirs up its nest, hovers over its young, spreading out its wings, taking them up, carrying them on its wings, so the Lord alone led them, and there was no foreign God with them, which idol that has eyes but does not see. He will make him ride in the heights of the earth, that he might eat the produce of the fields. He made him draw honey from the rock, and oil from the flinty rock, curds from the cattle, and milk of the flock, with fat of the lamb and rams of the breed as Bashan, and goats with the choicest wheat, and you drank wine, the blood of the grapes. But Jeshurun grew fat and kicked. You grew fat, you grew thick, you are obese, for he forsook God who made him, and scornfully esteemed the rock of his salvation. They provoked him to jealousy with foreign gods, with abominations They provoked him to anger. They sacrificed to demons, not to God, to gods that they did not know, to gods, new arrivals that your fathers did not fear. Of the rock who begot you, you are unmindful and have forgotten the God who fathered you. And when the Lord saw it, he spurned them because of the provocation of his sons and daughters. And he said, I will hide my face from them. I will see that their end will be, for they are a perverse generation. Children in whom is no faith, that they have provoked me to jealousy by what is not God, and they have moved me to anger by their foolish idols. But I will provoke them to jealousy by those who are not a nation. I will more move them to anger by a foolish nation, for a fire is kindled my anger, and shall burn to the lowest hell. It shall consume the earth with her increase, and set on fire the foundation of the mountains. And I will heap disasters on them. I will spin my arrows on them. They shall be wasted with hunger, devoured by pestilence and bitter destruction. I will also send against them the teeth of beasts with the poison of serpents of the dust. The sword shall destroy outside. There shall be terror within for the young man and virgin, the nursing child with the man of gray hairs. I would have said, I will dash them into pieces and will make the memory of them to cease from among men. Had I not feared the wrath of the enemy, lest their adversaries should misunderstand, lest they should say, our hand is high, and it is not the Lord who has done all this. And that's something that I was talking about earlier. Sometimes, people are destroyed by their own sin. Greed, gluttony, and things like that. It destroys them because it consumes their mind, and a lot of things they can't control, and I think sin does that, unless we ask for forgiveness for those sins. And to me, sin is like a snowball rolling down the hill, and as you sin, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger till the giant snowball rolls back and rolls right over you, because sin is like that. Sin will keep you down. Righteousness will lift you up. And I really believe that, we have to really be careful, because we're already predestined to sin because of what happened in the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve. So we have to be really careful. And we do live in a world full of sin, and we see it every day. You turn on the TV, you see it. You go out in the public where people are not kind to one another, and the killings and things like that. We see that every day, and we have to really learn to separate, kind of know that God is the one in charge. And one day he is coming back, and he will make everything right. He will correct all the mistakes of man. Now, there will be people that will perish and face the second death. I mean, it's inevitable, a lot of people, I think a lot of people fear death for the fact that, you know, it's not the fear of death, it's the fear of what happens after death that really consumes people. Some people think that death is the end. No, it's not. It's the beginning, depending on where you're going, and that's why God set these commandments in stone like he did, because they are things that are right and just in the eyes of God himself. And he does, if you love him, he does expect you to follow these commandments. You can't veer to the left or veer to the right. You have to go straight. So, for they are a nation void of counsel, nor is there any understanding in them. Oh, that they are wise, that they understood this, that they would consider their latter end. How could one chase 1,000 and put 10,000 to flight, unless the rock had sold them and the Lord had surrendered them? For their rock is not like our rock, even our enemies themselves being judges. For their vine is of the vine of Sodom and of the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of gall, their clusters are bitter, their wine is the poisoning of all serpents and the cruel venom of cobras. It is not laid up in store with me, sealed among my treasures. Vengeance is mine, and recompense. Their foot shall slip in time, for the day of their calamity is at hand, and the things to come hasten upon them. Now, see, I know that sometimes, we get hurt by people, and it's human nature to want to get even, but it said right there, vengeance is mine. God will not let people to continue to hurt his children, because it may take a while, but it always comes around, like people bearing false witness against someone else because they heard it from someone else. Well, that's not, I had a school teacher that said, be careful of sentences that start out like this. I heard, or did you hear? We are not the judge. And you have to think, well, if this person is supplying information and you didn't ask for it, you really know they're up to something, and their motives are less than honorable because they're trying to bash someone else. And like I said, when you point at somebody, there's three pointing right back at you. So we really need to be careful about listening to the words of other people, because we don't really know how true it is, and really it's none of our concern, because each boat floats on its own bottom. So we have to separate ourselves from things that are said about other people that are harmful and things like that, and we just have to turn away from it, because once you get involved in that, it's like they talked about a consuming fire. There's so many people talking and you're in with it, and you may end up being the one that gets the credit for starting all this nonsense. So, and I'm sure this has happened to all of us, but God gives us the capability and the knowledge to see what's going on. And if you're in a situation and you don't feel comfortable, then that's your answer right there. If you smell a rat and you're really nervous about it, that's time to turn around. And like I said, if two people are at each other, it's between those two, and that's the two should settle it. But how often do people try to include other people? And normally that person is wrong, and they feel justified by including other people that are totally innocent, that mind their own business. Hey, Josie, welcome in. Good to see you, sweetie. That are minding their own business, and that's how people are. It's kind of like being in that circle, and it starts out with somebody saying nasty about somebody, and Josie's at work. I think that's what keeps Josie so young. She stays busy a lot, and that's good. It keeps you. All of us like to be productive, and I think Josie probably has been that way all her life. You can tell a lot about, we've never met face to face, but that just is the impression that I get from Josie. But that would be my advice. If someone comes to you with information about somebody, and it's never nice, just say, hey, that's what you're supposed to settle that between the two of you. Don't include, like I said, the person that is coming to you with this information. If they need reinforcements for the truth, it's really sad. Yep, Josie said, I have to work all my life. Josie's a go getter. And God, I think God's really blessed her, and her heart's in the right place. And we should all hope to live to that age and be as sharp as Josie. But we should separate ourselves from anything evil like that. It's not worth it. You know, you get involved in something, and someone said something to you, and then someone turned around and said that you said it, and she said, and you said, and it's just a vicious cycle. You just say, hey, it's between you two. And why are you involving me? And I'm sure they can't explain, because 9 times out of 10 they're wrong anyway, and they need, if you're right, the truth will stand when everything else falters. Why do you need reinforcements if you indeed are telling the truth? That's the little thing we get into with that. We'll read on. For the Lord will judge his people and have compassion on his servants. When he sees that their power is gone and there is no one remaining, bond or free, he will say, where are your gods, the God in which they sought refuge? The one that has eyes but cannot see is what that's in reference to. And drank the wine of their drink offering. Let them rise and help you and be your refuge. So that was a learning lesson right there. These people were worshiping gods that made of stone and all these idols. And then when it come down, when they're on their last leg and everything's going wrong, which, God knew it would, it's kind of meaningless to go to an idol, because they're not going to do anything for you. You're welcome, Josie. When you had the opportunity to do the right thing and follow the commandments, and yet they chose to worship other things besides the living God, and that's where they got in trouble. So that's kind of a real eye opener for these people that chose to worship these other gods. And sometimes those facts hurt, but you know what? They're necessary. Now see that even I am he, and there is no God beside me. I kill and I make alive, I wound and I heal. Nor is there anyone who can deliver from my hand, for I raise my hand to the heaven and say, as I live forever, if I wet my glittering sword and my hand takes hold on judgment, I will render vengeance to my enemies and repay those who hate me. I will make my arrows drunk with blood, and my sword shall devour flesh with the blood of the slain and the captives from the heads of the leaders of the enemy. You ever notice, guys, and that is so true, and when it says, you know, that I think the one reason why Jesus was so hated, because he spoke the truth. People are going to be people no matter what. And sometimes people are afraid of the truth. And I think I've always been really truthful to a fault, but sometimes it's necessary. And are you going to you're going to make some enemies along the way, because the truth is so hard on people. And me, I would rather know the truth than to not know the truth, because sometimes in the truth, you can basically protect yourself, but I would much rather. And sometimes you have to tell people things that are very hurtful, But you know what? At least you cared enough about him to come to them and reveal that truth, and I still say truth is an endangered species. And don't you guys notice the most lies are told about people who are truthful, who hold God's regard of honesty at a high level because they're supposed to? And sometimes, the truth hurts, but sometimes, it's necessary. And one thing about telling the truth, you never have to remember what you said previously. And people who lie can't. You can't change unless you see the truth. That's so true, Josie. That's true. And sometimes people are they want to, they would rather blame you than to accept the fact that you're right. And I know that sounds weird, and that is absolutely 100% true. That, and the truth hurts, but the truth, if applied, can be very valuable to that person, whether they realize it or not. It might hurt for a little bit, but not knowing the truth may hurt you for the rest of your life. That's why we should seek to tell the truth no matter what. Just sometimes we have to lay it on the line, and it is painful, but it must be done. Rejoice, O Gentiles, with his people, and he will avenge the blood of his servants and render vengeance to his adversaries. He will provide atonement for his land and his people. That's true, Josie. The truth will set you free, boy. That's a good one. That's a good one. Sometimes as people we're this way. We don't want to know the truth because we can't handle it. And even though the truth may be right in front of our face, we don't want to believe it. Sometimes, if you accept the truth and move on instead of dwelling on it, you're a lot better off. And amen, Josie, that truth will absolutely set you free. Well said, friend. Well said. That's absolute truth, no doubt. So Moses came with Joshua and the son and the nun and spoke all the words of this song in the hearing of the people. Moses finished speaking all these words to Israel, and he said to them, set your hearts on the words which I testify among you today, which you shall command your children to be careful to observe all the words of this law. For it is not a futile thing, for by this word you shall prolong your days in the land which you cross over the Jordan to possess. Then the Lord spoke to Moses that very same day, saying, go up this mountain of Abiram, Mount Nebo, which is in the land of Moab across Jericho. View the land of Canaan, which I give to you, the children of Israel, as a possession, and die on the mountain which you ascend, and be that page. Let me separate. No, that is the right page. To your people, just as Aaron your brother died on Mount Hor and was gathered to his people, because you trespassed against me among the children of Israel at the waters of Meribah, Kadesh in the wilderness of Zin, because you did not hallow me in the midst of the children of Israel, yet you shall see the land before you, though you shall not go there into the land which I am giving to the children of Israel. Now this is the blessing with which Moses, the man of God, blessed the children of Israel before his death. And he said, the Lord came from Sinai and drawn on them from Sarah. He shone before Mount Paran, and he came with 10,000 thousands of saints from his right hand. Came a fiery law for them. Yes, he loves the people. All his saints are in your hand. They sit down at your feet. Everyone receives your words. Moses commanded a new law for us, inheritance of the congregation of Jacob, and he was king in Jezreel when the leaders of the people were gathered, all the tribes of Israel together. Let Reuben live and not die, nor let his men be few. And this he said of Judah, here, I think my contacts need to be changed. Hear, Lord, the voice of Judah, and bring him to his people. Let his hands be sufficient for him, and may you be a help against his enemies. And of Levi he said, let your Thummim and your Urim be with you, your Holy One, whom you tested at Massah, and with whom you contended at the waters of Meribah, who says of his father and mother, I have not seen them, nor did he acknowledge his brothers or know his children, for they have observed your word and kept your covenant, and that they shall teach Jacob your judgments and Israel your law. They shall put incense before you and a whole burnt sacrifice on your altar. Bless bless his substance, Lord, and accept the work of his hands. Strike the loins of those who rise against him and of those who hate him, that they rise not again. Of Benjamin he said, the beloved of the Lord shall dwell in safety by him, who shelters him all the day long, and he shall dwell between the shoulders. And of Joseph he said, blessed of the Lord is his hand with the precious things of heaven, with the dew and the deep lying beneath, with the precious fruits of the sun, with the precious produce of the mouths, with the best things of the ancient mountains, with the precious things of the everlasting hills, with the precious things of the earth and its fullness, and the favor of him who dwelt in the bush. Let the blessing come on the head of Joseph and on the crown of the head of him who has separate from his brothers. His glory is like a firstborn bull, and its horns like the horns of a wild ox. Together with them he shall push the peoples to the ends of the earth. They are the 10,000s of Ephraim, and they are the thousands of Magnesha, and the Zebulun. He said, rejoice, Zebulun, in your coming out, and Issachar in your tents. They shall call the people to the mountain, and they shall after sacrifices of righteousness, for they shall partake of the abundance of the seas and the treasures hidden in the sand. And of God he said, blessed is he who enlarges Gad. He dwells as a lion and tears the arm and the crown of the head. He provided the first part for himself because a lawgiver's portion was reserved there. He came with the heads of the people. He administered the justice of the Lord and his judgments with Israel. And of Dan he said, Dan is a lion's whelp. He shall leap from Bashan. And of the Naphtali he said, O Naphtali, satisfied with favor and full of blessing of the Lord, possess the west and the south. And of Asher he said, Asher is the most blessed of the sons. Let him be favored by his brothers, and let him dip his foot in oil. We're on the last page here. Your sandals shall be iron and bronze, as your days, so shall your strength be. There is one like the God of Jerusalem who rides the heavens to help you, and in his excellency on the clouds, the eternal God is your refuge, and underneath are the everlasting arms. He will thrust out the enemy before you and will say, Destroy. Then Israel shall dwell in safety. The fountain of Jacob alone in the land of grain, new wine, his heavens shall also drop dew. Happy are you, O Israel, who is like you, a people saved by the Lord, the shield of your help and the sword of your majesty. Your enemies shall submit to you, and you shall tread down their high places. Then Moses went up from the plains of Moab to Mount Nebo to the top of Pisgah, which is across from Jericho, and the Lord showed him all the land of Gilead as far as Dan, all the Naphtali and the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, all the land of Judah as far as the western sea, the south and the plain of the valley of Jericho, the city of the palm trees as Zoar. Then the Lord said to him, This is the land which I swore to give to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I will give it to your descendants. I have caused you to see with your eyes, but you shall not cross over there. So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord. And then he burned him in the valley in the land of Moab, opposite Beth Peor, but no one knows his grave to this day. Moses was 120 years old. See, they lived longer back in biblical times, and there were people that were considered giants back then as well. Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eyes were not dim, nor his natural vigor diminished. And the children of Israel wept for Moses in the plains of Moab 30 days. So the days of weeping and mourning for Moses ended. Now Joshua the son of Nun was full of the spirit of wisdom, for Moses had laid his hands on him, so that the children of Israel heeded him and did as the Lord had commanded Moses. But since then there has not arisen in Israel a prophet like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face. In all the signs and wonders which the Lord sent to him to do in the land of Egypt before Pharaoh, before all his servants and in all his land, and by all that mighty power and the great terror which Moses performed in the sight of all Israel. So, I think Moses kind of fulfilled a prophecy by, he got the Israelites out of Egypt from the cruel dictation of Pharaoh, and he led them through the wilderness. And even though all these things was performed to get the people out of Egypt, still, even after they were free, I think they were questioning God's grace the whole time. You know, I think sometimes as people, we do the same thing. Here the Israelites were imprisoned and were slaves to Egypt for 430 years. So they watched all these things unfold on Pharaoh, yet they even questioned, they didn't have food to eat or water to drink, and asked Moses, Did you get us out of Egypt only for us to die? Well, of course, the Lord did provide, but, after witnessing such great feats that the Lord had done, they're complaining and not trusting that the Lord would see them through their journey to the promised land. And I think that's how we are, everything's going good and then something happens, and which causes us to forget, the blessings that happened in our lives that we really need to acknowledge. I think the thing that comes to mind about faith to me in the Bible is when after Jesus was crucified and rose on the third day, and after that he appeared to his disciples, and even though he told them in the beginning, I will be betrayed before the rooster crows 3 times, but I will return. So even his disciples, he appeared upon to the disciples, and they were afraid. They're like thinking like ghost. And he even his disciples was like that. But when he put his hand out and one of the disciples put his finger through the hole that held his hand where he was crucified, then he believed. But we're talking about his disciples. And I think it's as we are today, we often forget there's so many things we think things are luck or whatever. It's not luck, it's God. You can't God is a God of miracles. He is a God of love. He is a God of forgiveness. And thank goodness he is a God of forgiveness, or we'd all be in trouble. We sin every day, and the only thing we can do is go to God and ask for forgiveness. He is a very merciful God. You can't go to him and ask forgiveness and keep repeating it because you're going to get in trouble. He knows the sincerity of our heart. He knows what makes us tick, and he definitely knows what we're going to do next. Either we sin or we don't sin. We know the difference as people between right and wrong. So are we going to lean toward the right or lean toward the wrong? We know what the wrong does for us. It will condemn us, and sin is sin no matter how you slice it, and that will in fact take our salvation away. God didn't say expect us to be perfect, but he did expect us to apply ourselves. You can't straddle the fence because you can't have two masters, or you'll love one and hate the other. You have to love the right one. But as we go into the holiday season, it is a gift giving season, and we have to remember the wonderful gift that we were given when that little baby was born in that manger. And I don't even think the people back in that day realized the significance of that birth. And and he was born in a manger in straw, because there wasn't any room in the inn, and God knew he had to send his son to be born, teach the gospel, and he knew he was going to die, but he died for us, and he's the reason for the season. And something that really fires me up is when I see the word Xmas. It just really, I don't like that. We have to remember that God gives us everything. With him, we are nothing. He is responsible for our very being. And we cannot take the Christ out. Oh, that really gets me. I'm like, how could someone put Xmas? That's how this world is, guys. Christmas is gift giving, but you know what? We were given the biggest gift of all, and that was Jesus Christ. It's nice to have things and give and receive, but Jesus, he committed one of the greatest acts of love. He died for us. When he He was on that cross, and the scriptures say he was beaten beyond recognition. And I mean, it just wasn't, uh, he wasn't just put up on a cross, he was beaten beyond recognition. And even on the cross, as he was on the cross, the love was still there because he said, "Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do." So even then, even after the cruel treatment by the Roman soldiers, and the things he went through, and he had to carry his own cross up on Mount Calvary, that hill, and it just really gives me chills to know that the way our Lord was treated, and that was God right there. And he knew that he had to do it because he could see the state of events in this world, and he loved the world and everything in it so much that he was willing to die to buy our pardon, death that we deserved. But he, like it says in that song, Jesus paid it all, and all to him we owe. And that's absolutely true. One of the greatest acts of love ever committed was Jesus Christ on that cross. And the only thing that he asked, that we love him with all our heart, our soul, and keep his commandments. But, it's sometimes we go through things and we think God's not there, and we complain and forget about everything else he's done for us because our faith is not in the right place. You have to have faith. If God brought you through other things, wouldn't he bring you through the next one? That's what I believe. Uh, Ever beside us walks our Heavenly Father, and we cannot forget that. We have to hold on to that, because things on this earth, all the evil and the gluttony and the killing, we're really in a sad state of affairs. But you know what? Even you ever feel like that you're in the world but not part of it? It's kind of, I've heard a lot of people say that because of all the evil things that men do, and women as well. But we have to remain steadfast to that hope of our inheritance, like it talked about inheritance all through Deuteronomy. And we cannot forget the bigger picture. If we keep those commandments and we love the Lord God with all our heart and soul, one day we will have an inheritance of our own. And it will be, and Jesus is coming back to claim his children. And he said he was going to come back. Now, we don't know when, but we know he's coming. His word is the truth, the light, and the way. And, we have to kind of keep going, and wait for that, and be the best person we can be, love other people, even though they treat you like crap. We still have to love them, because that's how other people know that we are Christian, by our love. And, that's just how it is. So we'll go ahead and go to the Lord in prayer. All the remaining part of this month will be about Jesus's birth and everything that happened, his life, his ministry, his uh, death, his resurrection, and so on and so forth. So that should take a good while, but I feel like this is important because it sets the precedence of how and why God came to this earth to save. He didn't come to this earth to destroy. He came to this earth to give a promise of everlasting life. And that's basically what we need to remember. And the holiday season is pretty special, and it causes a lot of people this year have lost loved ones, and they're rather emotional, and a lot of them are in a deep depression. And, you know, you can go to the doctor and get medicine, but you know who the best doctor is? Jesus Christ. And we need to remember that and pray about the situation, and He will give you great comfort. He knows you're hurt, He knows you're sad. You just have to reach out to Him, and He is right there, even in our worst times, you know. So we're going to go to the Lord in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for your promise of our inheritance, that one day the trials of this earth will be over and we will reign in that city not made with hands. You love us, Lord, and we're so grateful for that, we can come to you and ask for forgiveness and be forgiven, and let that heavy burden be taken off our shoulders. We think about the holiday season coming up, Lord. You are the absolute reason for this season, that we should remember the Christmas story, your birth, your life on the earth as a human, and finally your death and resurrection. We love you so much, Lord. Thank you so much for your many blessings. And Lord, lift those up that are going through things because of the death of a loved one or just the loss in general. Thank you, Lord, for loving us in spite of all our shortcomings. And it's in all these things I pray. Amen. So, like I said, all month long, we're going to have the Christ's birth and everything that transcended all the way up to his death. I'd like to thank you guys for being here. You've been a real blessing to me. I hope I have been a blessing to you. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we will see you back here next Tuesday. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great day.